Happy New Year, Geeks and Geekettes. It's a very special episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Steady.
I'm JC.
The man, the myth, the legend. Don't forget.
Sure.
Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, man. Good to see you.
It's a very special episode for us. It is Young Justice Week. Young Justice returns this Friday, and the two of us are stoked. All the other Geekcasters are absolutely stoked, and a lot of you fans out there just cannot wait. It's a momentous occasion. We're celebrating all week, bringing you coverage of the comic tie-in series that's coming out January 2nd and 3rd of this week. And then Friday, the big day, January 4th. The premiere day. We're having a watch party at one of our local gaming lounge centers. And we're going to have a bunch of fans out there. We're going to be there watching the first 3 episodes of the series. And then we're going to follow up with a live broadcast recapping the first few episodes.
And see where it goes from there. So come out and join us Friday, January 4th at the Play Live Nation Calabar Commons location. We'll be there from 8 to midnight. $5 entry gets you gaming all night. We're looking forward to seeing you guys out there to enjoy Young Justice with who else but fellow fans of the show. So pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And today, joining us later on is the comic book artist for the Young Justice comic series. And he has, like I mentioned earlier, 2 issues coming out this week. Christopher Jones is going to be joining me for a one-on-one interview. We're going to post that later on in the show. But first, we wanted to talk about where we've been and where we're going.
Yep.
All about Young Justice.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a crazy long time, and I know you fans have been waiting just as long as we have. You, sir, you've caught up in the recent weeks and months. So.
Yeah. As I said on our promo, some of us have been waiting 6 years, like him. I've been waiting about 3 or 4 months, however long the DC service has been out. So we got it, my wife and I was okay. They're bringing season 3 back. Let me see what the hype is about. I missed it when it was on Cartoon Network. I forget where I was years ago, but got to binge watch it. It was really good. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. So I'm waiting for season 3. Didn't have to wait quite as long as you. So I missed all the drama and the hype and everyone wanting it back. But
it's hard to argue that it's not one of the best or the best animated series of all time. Just the writing. And if you go back and you watch it, you're going to notice exactly how seeds are planted and how little lines or little moments pay off in the end of the season, in the following season. Like the writers, Greg Weisman, Brandon Vietti, who are just fantastic at what they do, they find out great ways to not only bring in dozens of characters, and they give them all a great amount of time and screen time and make sure that they shine in certain moments, but they interweave these storylines like perfectly. I don't understand how you do it this well, but it is a great achievement.
They do a great job too of not spoiling anything. They do just the right amount of foreshadowing to keep you guessing. Is a big thing too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
And so let's start off with where we left off with season 2. One of the biggest cliffhangers I've ever seen in an animated series or just TV show in general. But our Young Justice team saved the world. They stopped Black Beetle's plan of destroying Earth by disrupting the magnetic zones or the magnetic pool of the Earth. The Earth was going to explode. Both the Justice League, who had just been exonerated on Ran for their frame-up,
pretty much, yeah, from what had happened 5 years earlier in season 1, basically. Yeah.
Yes, that's great how that pays off. That was a huge cliffhanger as well. What happened during those?
What happened in those? And then season 2 starts. They still didn't know. They finally found out, and then they kind of
16 hours, right?
16 hours
that were missing.
And then the Justice League disappeared for most of season 2. So the Young Justice guys were on their own. They had to keep up appearances that the Justice League was still around, and then do things on their own as well. So,
and I don't want to skip on one thing because I think it's actually coming back in season 3. Mm-hmm. So after the Justice League has been exonerated, Vandal Savage, I believe, goes on a huge public display on the planet Ran, and tells everyone, you better not attack us or try and come at us with anything because we will defend ourselves or whatever else.
Right.
And you see Apocalypse, or at least a ship that is entering the orbit or the space around Rand. So that's where Rand left off, and the Justice League gets exonerated. They head back to Earth, and the Young Justice team, with dozens of other heroes, are going around the Earth dismantling these devices that are meant to destroy the planet. They succeeded, but it did come at a cost, as we all found out.
Yes.
We did lose Wally West.
Or did we? We'll
We
find
don't
out.
know.
We don't know. Yeah.
We'll talk to AJ Nightwing later on about his thoughts on that.
Yep.
AJ Nightwing, who he just wants to discuss Young Justice all the time, so he'll join us a little later on. But that's where we left off at Season 2. Our heroes are in mourning. We saw Nightwing at the end of Season 2 tell Aqualad that he's got to take a little bit of a break. We do know he comes back. If you haven't seen the trailers for Young Justice or any of the promos, let's go ahead and take a look at them right now.
This is no time for you to resign.
I'm not resigning. Just taking a leave of absence. Besides, if you need help, Barbara's more than ready to step up.
Agreed. But Dick...
I need a break, Calder. You, me, Wally, we founded this team. Without him...
I understand. This team has had successes, but much remains to be done. Superboy, Miss Martian, Beast Boy, you're Alpha. Ba'ar's has called from Mars. He needs help. Tigress, Kid Flash, Bumblebee, Guardian, you're Beta. LexCorp is bringing out the Reach soft drink under a new name. We need proof.
Business as usual.
I'm sorry, Otto. We couldn't find a transplant. And your sister, Anna, her heart just gave out.
Otto.
None of that now.
Initiating TAR protocol.
Otto! Portuesi!
Nitrogen activated. Let's see what we've got.
Here in the dreamland for a while. What just happened?
I don't hear a heartbeat.
No. That wasn't enough juice to kill anything. It cannot be dead.
She. It is a she. Or was. Scans indicate heart failure. And I'm reading a female. Approximate age, 14 Earth years.
Earth years?
Yes. I'm sorry. But this is a human girl. A child. From Earth.
All right. And so the first scene that we took a look at right there, that is the very beginning of Season 3, Young Justice Outsiders. That's going to be the very first few minutes of the episode with the Justice League on Ran. And this is what I was referring to earlier. We saw Vandal Savage and a ship or something going towards the orbit of Ran, and now we see parademons basically on the surface of Ran attacking Justice League members. It's been 2 years. It's quite possible that a war has broken out between Apocalypse and Ran, and now we're seeing the Justice League sort of defend the planet.
Having to defend the planet, and for all we know, my guess is they would succeed there, and then Apocalypse is going to make a shot at Earth.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the big one, where Darkseid's going to try and complete his invasion, his takeover. So
I know you enjoyed this first scene because Soups
Yes.
is automatically in the first scene
of
with
course.
with the Justice League. Wonder Woman's there, Batman, Green Lantern is there, and we have a couple of new folks. Well, Adam Strange, we saw at the end of Season 2. Ice, Black Lightning making his Young Justice debut. That's got to be great to see.
How many more characters are they going to bring in, man? You know, so there's just so many.
If you remember the San Diego Comic-Con coverage that we had, we posted the panel on our Facebook page. Phil Barraza, who is the lead designer for all the characters, he pretty much said the entire DC Comics universe is in the third season. And if he's saying that, I'm going to take him at his word for it.
Let's see it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I cannot wait. So they're all on the surface of Ran, and they're taking on parademons, and we actually see something that's going to be a major plot point for this season. Dr. X is performing experiments on Earth children. We saw this young girl, don't know her name. Well, actually, they might have said her name, but
I missed it, but yeah.
We saw this doctor. They're doing tests there. They are enhancing or activating the metagene within children and then using them as weapons. And she did not survive because of a heart condition she had back on planet Earth. But we're seeing what is going to be a major plot point is kidnapping kids, activating metagenes, which is sort of kind of like
they
last year.
They kind of did in Season 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year. Last season.
Yeah. We'll say last year, just for continuity's sake. Yeah.
This time has gone by so fast.
Yes.
I'm thrilled. It's been a very long time, but I'm glad it's here.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually really like this. We don't know to what extent the Light or Savage or Darkseid. I can't wait until we finally get Darkseid doing something more than a cameo, hopefully at the end of the season. But we don't know to what extent all of this is happening. They are sending these experiments on the children, or just this one at least, like to the front lines of the battlefield.
Yep.
So it's crazy, but this is a major plot point, and it's something that's carrying over from last season, and I'm already really interested in invested in this.
Yeah, same here. They're keeping elements of this series. I mean, so far from what I've seen, it's going to have the same feel.
Yeah.
Same actors. Plus, you want to see just how much these characters have grown up.
That's key.
If Superboy's finally calmed down a bit, because he's kind of a hothead at times. But yeah.
It's funny that all the other characters are growing up, and Superboy still looks exactly the
He
same
looks
because he's
hey,
a clone. He's
half
not getting older.
Kryptonian, half human. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But I'm curious though. I mean, we got in a hint of it in Season 2 where him and Superman working together before Superman got sent off with the rest of the Justice League to Ran. But how much more that'll come into play with Season 3? How much more work they're going to do with the Justice League on this? So.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Superhuman team up as well. So.
There's also been a few promos that have been out for the new season. Lobo, Geoforce, Katana. We saw Katana. There's a bunch of new characters, new designs for old characters. Arrowette, for one. And I know we're getting a bunch of new characters that we're not too sure who they might be. Some people are guessing that Cassandra Cain is actually one of the new characters that we're going to see this season, so that's going to be interesting to see. Spoiler is going to be an interesting one, and then Halo. Halo is going to be an also interesting new character that we're getting this season. Not much is known. We're not sure how they're going to be introduced or who's portraying them exactly, but
surprise me.
Yeah,
don't tell me.
These writers Nothing is ever exactly how they are in the comics. They really find interesting ways of bringing characters from different timelines or different various comic storylines together. So I can't wait to see that. And Clayface, my favorite DC villain, I think, or one of them at least. Clayface is making another return to Young Justice. There's a clip of him out there somewhere going up against either Nightwing or Tim Drake, I believe. I wonder if Damien's ever going to make it onto the show. That'd be
I don't know. It's
interesting to see.
That's like years down the line, isn't it? So it's a ways away.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Tim either looks like he's advanced in his Robin stage fairly quickly, or he's on the verge of becoming Red Robin.
Okay.
And when that happens, Damien is just around the corner. And also, who's just around the corner, at least a fan favorite, would be Red Hood.
Yeah, just around the corner. I feel like so those kind of reveals, maybe you'll see those season 4. If we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Let's get a tease at the end of season 3.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So, because we're already seeing Damien in the recent DC animated movies, the based off the New 52 look. The whole son of Batman and whatnot. So, I just want to kind of see. Okay, let's stick with what we know right here, and then but definitely a tease for season 4 would be awesome, or maybe late in the season. So,
well, we can't wait. I don't have any wants or expectations. I just am glad that the season is back, the show is back, the fans are ecstatic. We're going to have a major watch party event this Friday if you're in the San Antonio area. We're going to be at the Play Live Nation Culebra Commons location on the northwest side of town from 8 o'clock. And we're going to show the first few seasons.
No commercials.
First few episodes,
no commercials
of the show.
Yes.
No commercials. It's on the DC Universe app. And then it's open gaming up until close, which is midnight, over at the Play Live Nation Culebra Commons location. So come see us. Come watch the show. Come play some games. And then we're going to follow up the season premiere episodes with a live broadcast recap with the Countdown City Geekcast. So we'd love to see you there.
Yep, we'd love to see you. Might even, I don't know, maybe we'll find a way to take some comments from people that were there too. So
there you go.
And if you can't make it, watch us on Facebook. So
watch us on Facebook. We'll be back to have another watch party for the mid-season finale.
Yep.
Not sure when that's going down. It could happen probably in a month if they're going to go 3 episodes each week. We're not exactly sure what the schedule is on that yet.
Yep.
But this Friday, $5 entry gets you gaming, open gaming all night. They have PCs. They have dozens of Xbox consoles and TVs. And it's a blast. Hundreds of games to choose from. And we're going to have cosplayers out there. Our friends with Countdown City Comic-Con. No direct affiliation.
No, it's pure coincidence. Yes.
Very big coincidence, but they're some good friends of ours. They're bringing all their cosplay friends to come celebrate with us. And it's going to be a great time. We're going to have some giveaways for you guys. So be sure to, if you're in the area, if you get a chance, you're going to want to make this out. It's going to be a really great time.
Yep. We'll see you guys there. I'm looking forward to it. So,
any last thoughts on the new season of Outsiders?
I think I've seen everything I want to see. Let's just see it at this point. I don't want to, I know there's a lot of videos that they're speculating on this or that or who's this. I'm trying to say, you know what? Let me just figure out when I watch. I'm that kind of person, but that's just me. So.
Can you remember another animated series where there's this much emphasis on keeping spoilers away from the audience, like keeping everything secret and under wraps as much as this show?
Animated, no, nothing
Never.
like that. No.
Doesn't that say something?
That's just how good it is. That's what the fans want. That's how popular this was. I mean, even the outcry over Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, it was never like this. Never. So
no.
Yeah.
Where the majority of animated shows out there are just week to week, episode to episode, not much tie-ins going across. Young Justice, for me at least, is one very long movie.
Yeah.
Miniseries.
It has that feel to it, yeah, definitely.
Consider it a miniseries. Things that happen in the beginning will come back to pay off towards the end, or they may be little seeds that they've planted to bring back into the show in following seasons, which we're probably going to get. They haven't announced a season 4 yet, but Young Justice is already the most popular TV show on the DC Universe app. And if it's anything like we're doing in town, in our local area, fans across the nation and across the world are all excited to get this show back. If you do not have the DC Universe app, we did find out recently, it was announced this week that Netflix subscribers in Canada and I think the UK, I do know Canada for sure, are going to get the Outsiders season 3 starting January, was it 13th? Did you see that?
I haven't checked that. It's probably, if it goes the same route Titans did, it's any Netflix outside of the United States
There you go.
and China. Yeah. So those are the two countries that won't have, well, they won't have Titans on Netflix. Probably I would think the same thing for Young Justice. So
Yeah, but expect if you're in Canada, and I'll follow up on the UK, but you're gonna get the third season of Young Justice a little later in a few weeks. So you have a little bit more to wait, but it's coming. And for all of you in the U.S. and anyone else who has a DC Universe app, celebrate, rejoice. The
Yes,
return of Young Justice is here. For the countdown to the Geekcast, my name is Steady. Thank you for joining us. We can't wait to see you Friday. And Young Justice is back with me, with my
don't forget
buddy,
about me.
the man, the myth, the legend, JC.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you this Friday.
Take it easy, guys. What is up, geeks and geekettes? My name is Steady, and we are celebrating the return of Young Justice this entire week. The new series is out. The new season is out this Friday, season 3, the long-awaited series, and we are celebrating today by having a very special guest. The one and only Christopher Jones, the comic book artist for the Young Justice series, is joining us. Chris, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, and it's exciting to be trumpeting the return of Young Justice.
Something I said to a friend of mine earlier, there's electricity in the air. Fans are all across social media are talking about footage, photos, clips. They're talking about their favorite characters. It's a very exciting time. It's something we probably have not seen for an animated series before. Would you agree?
It is very exciting, and the wait has seemed so long, and it's almost over now. The wait. I mean, if you remember, normally when an animated series is coming out, they
Right.
don't start promoting it until it's a few months away.
Exactly.
They'll promote it when they've got promotional images and video clips, and they can be saying, here's the premiere date. But in the instance of Young Justice, because this is a revival of what had been a very popular show with this very fervent fan base that had been campaigning for its return, they announced it as soon as the decision was made to greenlight the new season.
Right.
So, I mean, if you remember when the announcement came out, there was that logo that said Young Justice with a great big yellow 3 underneath it.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, the day that announcement came out, it was the day after that they formally hired Brandon Vietti and Greg Weisman back as producers to start working on the new season.
That's so crazy.
Welcome to the entire, almost 2-year production cycle
Right.
of a season of animation, because this stuff takes a while, and usually you're not waiting through the whole thing with like no news as they're doing the writing and in pre-production and
Yeah.
So it's been a wait, but the wait is almost over, and I am as thrilled as anybody.
It really is. And actually, that was going to be one of my first questions for you. I was there 2 years ago at San Diego when they did the official announcement that the show was coming back. And the only thing we got was a few art photos of the new team, how they're looking today. It's always funny that Superboy doesn't change at all because he's Kryptonian, part Kryptonian, and he's also a clone. So
there's these incredibly subtle changes to Superboy, but he pretty much looks the same.
Yeah, so I was at that San Diego panel. I was also at last year's, I have to say that now, last year's San Diego panel. I want to know from you, where were you when you found out the series was coming back? Because it also means for you a possibility of future comics. We'll talk about that later. And also, what was your first reaction?
Well, So I had obviously been following the news of, you know, there had been a campaign to
Right.
try to get the show back. I mean, there had been talk about it, but the campaign started in earnest with Greg Weisman really helping drive it online. Once the second season got added to Netflix,
Right.
once both seasons were there, and they knew that people were paying attention to the kind of viewership numbers it was getting,
Of course.
uh, that was the time. Because this stuff is a business,
Sure.
and as much as Warner Brothers Animation has always loved the show and
Right.
has been interested in bringing it back. They aren't going to bring it back just out of charity, just to be
Right.
nice to the fans. They were looking for a business model that they thought like we can make money off of this.
Exactly.
Understandably, that's what the business is that they're in. Um, so as much as people were campaigning and wanting to sign petitions and all these things, it was the data produced by people watching it on Netflix that finally made dollar signs appear in people's eyes, and like, okay, let's find a way to make this happen. Ended up being on DC Universe instead of on Netflix, but
Yeah.
it was the viewing on Netflix that led to this. So I knew all that was in the works, and I was trying to help lead the cheerleading for it and all the hashtag campaigns and all of that stuff. So I knew that was in the works, but as far as like the formal announcement that it was happening for real for sure, I found out when I saw the announcement online with everybody else. I was sitting right here in my studio. The only thing that made the experience different for me, is that I got to immediately email Greg Weisman and say, "So this is really happening? Cool. What do you know? What do you know?" And Greg, being Greg, couldn't tell me a whole lot,
Sure.
but I feel like my role during this whole years long process, more often than not, has just been shooting down disinformation when I saw it. It's
There you
like, oh, that's a rumor, that's not true, let's just say no to that. But yeah, so I found out same time everybody else did. I was sitting right here.
Well, I'm going to thank you first. I wanted to do that, speaking to you directly. Thank you for always being an advocate for the fans, whether it be like you say, correcting misinformation out there, or just being a hype man for the new season or a return of Young Justice. I mean, you would bring together YJ fans at the conventions you went to. I was a big follower, and every time you went to a convention, you'd say, Young Justice fans, meet me outside. We're going to take one big photo, and you'd have dozens of fans meeting you for a big photo. You remember those moments?
Oh, that was a ton of fun, and yeah, if you there's a whole, if you go on my social media, like every time, especially some of the larger conventions like New York
Yeah.
Comic Con, we do them. Um, yeah, it was that period of time when there were fans out there, but without there being a currently happening Young Justice project. Um, there's something was needed to bring everyone out of the woodwork to make the fandom more visible than
Ex-
just people commiserating on social media that they wish there was more of the show.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, you get everyone together for the meetups, and you get a picture of everyone who showed up, and you get a picture of everyone who showed up in costume, and those were a ton of fun. And yeah, I creatively, the Young Justice comic series was one of the most satisfying things I've ever been involved with, because I love the characters, and the
Oh,
the
yeah.
the stories were great. But this super excited, engaged fan base
Oh, my
that I
God.
got to interact with because of my involvement, definitely has made Young Justice just a highlight of my career. And so, how could I not want to um, continue to not only interact with those fans, but try to um, comfort fans when they were upset that the show seemed like it was gone, and
Oh,
and
my
try
goodness.
to try to make sure that people aren't people weren't getting their hopes up over rumors that weren't true, but not giving up all hope because
Right.
it was possible something could happen. And now
Here we are.
2019, here we are. Yeah.
Time has flown by. It's crazy to think.
It seems like it now. I don't know
It
if it
does
seemed
like
like it then. Time was flying by, but now, yeah.
it's crazy to think that we're getting just one. We're getting multiple episodes this week, but it's just insane to know that we're getting 3 brand new episodes this week in just a few days, or just on Friday. I won't make this about me, but I want to say what you kind of picked up on is a little bit of the pain that was felt, because fans knew prior to the finale of season 2 happening that the show had already been canceled. I
Yeah.
remember that vividly. Is that before the finale even aired, we knew this would be the last episode, and the finale ended up being watched by millions. It was their highest rated show ever in the franchise, or for the series, and it was just an epic, amazing episode to watch and behold. And so, like you just mentioned earlier, for fans, it's been pretty painful because you got this huge, amazing cliffhanger. This episode with dozens of characters and heroes all working together simultaneously around the world to save the planet, and we've been living with that for many years. But it's been 2 years since the official announcement, I believe, and it's coming up this week. So it's been a crazy time to see just the whole timeline of where we've been and where we are now. So it's been fantastic. You mentioned your career earlier. I kind of want to know more about you before we get to Young Justice and the comics and your process. So when did you first get started with drawing in comics, and what was the first comic series you worked on?
Well, I have wanted to draw I mean, I've got the job I wanted when I was 5 years old. You know, people ask when I decided that I wanted to draw comics, and like I don't remember ever having made that decision. It's just the thing I've always wanted to do.
Please explain this.
Um, well, I think anyone that drew a lot as a kid, their parents probably kept childhood drawings of theirs. My mother had a box in the attic of comics I had made as a kid, because I
Oh
would
my
I
god!
would take, sheets of paper, and it would be folded into a really crude little comic book. And the earliest ones, I don't know that you can really follow what's going on, but it was meant to tell some sort of a story. And then when I love telling this story. When I was 10 years old, my mom, who was trying her best to be supportive of her ambitious, creative son, but who
Right.
did not know any more about the comic book industry than most mothers of 10-year-olds, um, took me down to the office of our local newspaper, thinking that, well, newspapers publish comic strips. Maybe there's some connection to comic books. There really isn't, but we didn't know that then. Um, and the receptionist at the paper was, I think, very happy to know that there was a staff writer in the building who was a huge comics fan, because it gave her somewhere to direct us to that wasn't her. And I got introduced to a gentleman named Roy Everson, who became a friend, and definitely changed the course of my young life, because he not only talked the editor of the newspaper into doing a nice little feel good public interest feature on the young, local kid that wants to do comics,
Right.
but he somehow convinced him into taking. There's a 4-page syndicated kid section in the newspaper. It was like one tabloid sheet folded, so you get 1, 2, 3, 4 pages.
Yeah.
They replaced one of the 4 pages of this syndicated thing that they were paying for with a full-page superhero comic that I wrote and drew, one a week for a year,
Wow.
starting when I was 10. And the joke I always make is I may have been 10, but you'd swear I was 13. Um, it,
That's
but
amazing.
it was called Mr. Muscle, which I
Of
did not
course.
find out until later that that was also the name of a cleaning product. I didn't know then. Uh, and I look back at those now, and I can see myself learning to draw and
Yeah.
learning how to tell a story visually. And it really changed my development as a comic artist, because when you're having to tell a story in
Right.
this page every week, it changes your focus from just drawing cool looking superheroes to no, I actually have to show what's going on.
Yeah.
I have to learn. The fundamental thing about comic art is that you're communicating information. You're communicating story information.
Okay.
So like I'm focusing on that at age 10, which just it was a very different path than I think most people go on when pursuing comics. So I mean, I did that for free. It lasted a year. I was a kid. Um, and then, as I got into my late teens and my early 20s, I was doing other stuff that was for free or for very little pay for smaller publishers.
Sure.
Uh, Um, and then I had been showing, I've been sending samples of my work to editors at DC and Marvel, trying to break in at one of those two companies,
Hmm.
not having any success. And I saw, and this is back when, pre-internet, so I'm like physically mailing photocopies of work, through U.S. Postal Service mail to these publishers. Um, I saw an ad in a magazine that Warner Brothers Animation, and this is back when they were still doing their Batman and Superman shows in the late '90s.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, late '90s, early 2000s.
Sure.
That they were looking for freelance artists to come work for them. They were staffing up, and I sent some samples drawn sort of in that Bruce Timm house style,
And Mr.
and it
Muscle, of course, right?
yeah, sure, no, um, and I didn't get that didn't get me anywhere with Warner Brothers Animation, but I included
Okay.
those samples the next time I was sending stuff off to DC and Marvel, and they got seen by an editor at DC that was looking for someone to do art on a fill-in issue of a book that was drawn in a slightly cartoonier style than their normal stuff. And I
Okay.
think that meant that they had a smaller pool of artists to draw from that they knew could do that style. And so that got me my first gig at DC. And that
That's
was my foot in the door. And I ended up doing tie-in books for animated shows. And that led to my first regular series, which was The Batman Strikes, which was
oh,
the tie-in for The Batman. Um, and then a few years after that, Young Justice came along.
fantastic. You hit on something earlier while you were at
My
the
long rambling story, yes.
no, at the tender age of 10, you were talking about, which is great hands-on experience if you ask me, but you were really learning how to cultivate like a story.
Yeah.
So, in being an artist for comics, what is your sort of main goal or your main objective as in your mind, what is your main focus when drawing?
Well, it's funny that I think most readers, unless you really are looking at it for the art and you develop an eye for it,
Hmm.
most of the time you're not even necessarily paying that much conscious attention to the art, other than to whatever extent you like the drawing style or it looks cool.
Gotcha.
But as an artist drawing comics, the majority of my energy and attention goes into thinking about visual storytelling, about solving layout problems on the page and composition,
Right.
and not just cool fun stuff, but things like three characters have to talk in this panel, so I need to put the character who speaks first towards the left and the top of the panel, but leave room for the dialogue balloon, but make sure that the dialogue balloon with their dialogue can have an arrow pointing to them and reach them, and then there's room for the second chunk of dialogue to reach the character that speaks that. And so, you're thinking about all these things that aren't the stuff that the reader should even be paying attention to or thinking about.
Yeah.
But it's informing a lot of the choices you're making in the layout and design of the page. And
Sure.
that's before you even get to the style of the art or trying to make it, splashy or cool looking. And I've done stuff ranging in style from the various animated shows I've done tie-ins for, either emulating the look and feel of Phil Barassa's artwork on Young Justice, or Bruce Timm on the Justice League comics I've done, or the stuff I did on the Batman, which is a totally different style. But I've also done, more mainstream superhero comics. I've done stuff based on live action TV and film properties. I've done some Doctor Who comics and Batman 66, which I was trying to, make it look like the Adam West TV show, and like all these different things. But the fundamental underneath is still, tell the story, make sure the action is clear. You're communicating with your choices about costume and body language and camera position and lighting, all the things about character and mood and atmosphere and pacing,
Yeah.
all that stuff. And that's not stuff that the audience even should be thinking about, but it's where your energy and time goes when you're creatively doing the work.
No, and that makes perfect sense though. Like you have to line up in your train of thought all these steps of how the scene needs to play out, across a page and all these tiles. With Young Justice in doing the comic series, I'm just assuming that the process is a little bit more intricate since you're working with Greg Wiseman, and you're having to maybe work with Phil Barassa on certain design elements or carry over some components from the series. So, what's the process like of working on the YJ comics, which Greg, from what we've seen, is very detailed in his stories and the language and just the conversations between characters can have so much value for something further down the line. So, what is the process like with Young Justice?
Well, working with Greg streamlined things a lot. First of all, he writes very detailed, clear scripts.
Yes, he does.
I mean, not only are the stories good, but the scripts are structured in a way that it's very clear what's not only supposed to be going on, but what visual elements are going to be important for the telling of the story. He'll give me a list of, here are all the characters that appear in this story, and even we'll break it out by these are characters and places and things that have already appeared that we need to get you reference for, so you can
Wow.
be consistent with the show, versus things that's like, up to you, design a new version. Even if it's an existing DC Comics character, there's a distinction of whether or not I get to design a new Young Justice version of that character, or
Right.
whether Phil Barassa and his team had already designed a version of it, because even sometimes when we were doing a story in the comic, because of the lead time for animation, you may not have seen the episode yet, but that was in the pipeline and had already been designed.
Right. And you need to be
In
aware of all these
cases,
things.
yeah, and so in cases where it already existed, again, because Greg wasn't just the writer of the comic, but he was one of the producers of the show, I had the best pipeline to the reference I needed of any of these things I've ever worked on. Because I've done comics based on a licensed property before, where I was on my own. It was Google image search time trying to find the reference I needed.
Yeah.
But with this, Greg would just CC me on an email and say, can you send Chris the reference packet for this episode? And like, I would basically get the same stuff that were sent out to the animators
Wow.
and storyboard artists that were doing the work on the show for those characters. So
Yeah.
that was great. Um, if I got to design a new character, and we had some great villains that appeared exclusively in the comic. We had the Collector of Worlds, who was our version of Brainiac. We had Deadshot. We had Grodd.
Yes.
A bunch of heavy hitters that didn't show up in the show.
Yeah.
So the process there was just knowing the design philosophy and aesthetic for Young Justice. I would try to do a version of that character that seemed to fit, and then not only did Greg sign off on it as basically the person representing that external license to DC,
Yeah.
which was a hell of a convenience to have the writer be the guy that also could say, yeah, that's good. But it would get run past Phil Barassa to make sure it was consistent with his hopes for what characters would look like. And yeah, usually there would be times that we'd have to do a couple passes to get to where everyone was happy, but other times they're just like, nope, that looks good, let's just move forward. So yeah, that was a delight. And I mean, it was always especially gratifying working on the Young Justice comic, knowing that with Greg's involvement, these stories were considered part of the canon of the show.
Yes.
But that actually didn't make it any harder to produce the work, because of all those things I was just describing, that Greg's involvement streamlined the process of creating it.
Yeah. I just imagined, because of what you say, it ties to the show so well. You need to be aware of, like you had mentioned, past characters, future characters we've not seen on the show, but if you draw one drastically different than a future character they plan on having, that could create some sort of an inconsistency with the audience, and nobody wants that. So it's
Right.
interesting, but you can tell all the work that goes into something like this.
And that's Greg. I mean, that's Greg working with Brandon and then the other freelance writers who contribute to the show.
Mhm.
They catalog this timeline of events and have backstories worked out for all these characters. And a lot of the stories ended up appearing in the comic were things that had organically grown out of the working out of the storylines and character histories, but there were ideas and bits that just never found their way into an episode.
Sure.
So they'd be like, well, let's do that as one of the comic stories then. So we got some early backstory on Artemis
Yeah.
in the comic, that it's not like they hadn't already figured all that stuff out about her past. It was just those stories hadn't gotten told in the show.
Yeah. You get to dive a little
And some
deeper.
of those reveals hadn't happened in the show yet. So you got a little early peek as to what her deal was if you were reading the comic. And that's
Exactly.
one of the things that the comic, Greg's writing on the comic always impressed me, that you can watch the show and not have to even know that the comics or some of the narrative of what went on between seasons 1 and 2 was told in the video game that came out. You don't even have to know that stuff exists, and the show tells you what you need to know.
Exactly.
But if you're also following these other things, it all threads together. It just makes it that much more rich and detailed, and you learn more story. So yeah, it's great.
I absolutely love it. I'm going to ask you sort of a layup question here. Who is your most favorite character to draw? I know it's hard because you've drawn so many, but who is sort of the one you like coming back to often? And then you've done prints at conventions before. What have you noticed with the fans? Is it Artemis, Nightwing, Superboy, Wally? Who's sort of the most requested print that you get at cons?
Yeah, I always have a hard time answering any question that involves what's my favorite anything, because my brain just does not
Look at them that way.
categorize, prioritize in terms of favorites.
Sure.
But Batman has been my standout favorite superhero since childhood. It's like the exception to the favorite rule, because it's just like since childhood, nobody was close. So
Exactly.
Batman and by extension the various Bat family characters
Yeah.
always were a little extra fun to get to draw in the course of Young Justice. I did, I think I drew 46 out of 50 issues of that series I mentioned, the Batman Strikes, and there were certain villains who were off limits to us in that series for
Oh,
various reasons I never fully understood. We never got to use Scarecrow, we never got to use Two-Face, and we never got to use Ra's al Ghul.
oh
So
no.
when I finally got to draw, who happened to be three of my Batman villains. So when I
Yeah.
finally got to draw Ra's al Ghul in the context of a Young Justice story, I was over the moon happy. Um, but yeah, I mean, Aqualad, I never would have imagined before Young Justice that they could make such a cool version of
Like
Aqualad.
they nailed him.
Uh, I always enjoyed drawing him. Artemis and Miss Martian were especially great to draw. As far as like the prints and things I've done, or people coming up to ask me for custom commission sketches at
Sure.
conventions. Um, Nightwing, super popular. I don't think that's going to shock anybody.
Not at all.
Kid
Not
Flash, people love Kid Flash, Wally, and I think that was true even before and in spite of certain events at the end of season 2, which
yeah.
colored people's feelings about Wally. Um, and oh gosh, Artemis, I guess gets requested a fair amount. Um, but yeah, I mean, one of the joys of getting to work on an ensemble book like Young Justice is every time I would just start to get a little bit tired of drawing somebody, the new storyline would focus on different characters, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I get to do something really different. It just would freshen everything up. So
Exactly.
yeah, I
So
mean, it was all great.
that's what's great about Greg and especially Brandon on the show is that there's not characters that are ever left out. They're able to bring in all these different characters with different backgrounds. They all have very unique personalities, but they do this magnificent job of juggling all of them and giving them their screen time, or if you're in your case, time within the comic. So it's great
Yeah,
to
and
just see
and
that consistency.
and obviously some characters get more focus than
Sure.
others. I mean, some characters are your main characters, and others are like, oh, we need a minor character for this plot function in a story. Well, you know, it, it would be appropriate to have it be this character from DC Comics, so let's bring them in.
Right.
So you know, but and I know that some fans have been kind of freaking out over seeing all the new characters coming in for season 3 and having making them think that like characters from the first 2 seasons are going to be left out or forgotten. And I can't speak to how much screen time anybody is going to get, but
Sure.
there's part of the whole ethos of Young Justice is it's this very generational show where you are seeing the growth and development of these characters, and part of that is seeing people come in and they don't know their ropes yet, and then they get more experienced and they're growing up a little bit, and then they take on the responsibility of acting as mentors to a new generation coming up. And that's it. If you think about it in terms of your senior class and your junior class and the new freshmen coming in, I mean, that's kind of
It's what it
what
feels like.
Young Justice is about. And
Yeah.
if we get a season 4, if we get a season 5, guess what? You're gonna have new characters coming in every year. That's what this show is.
A couple years ago,
That's part of what I love about it.
we weren't sure if we are going to get a 3, and now you and I are sitting here debating on if 5 or even 4 or
Well, I
probably
mean,
6. That's
I
what's
don't
great
want to
about
give
this moment.
I don't want to give the impression that there's like a secret, season 4 already in development or anything. There's not. It's just,
Sure, Chris. Wink.
yeah, this is how I get myself in trouble. No, everyone's interested in doing more.
Sure.
Everyone would love to do more. If season 3 is successful enough, in the same way that it was the demand for the show that was demonstrated by how well the first 2 seasons did on Netflix. In the same
Exactly.
way that that led to season 3, if season 3 is successful enough, that will make somebody say, well, we should do a season 4. I mean, that's
Exactly.
how these things work.
Exactly.
And the fact that Greg and Brandon and the voice cast and everybody, they know this show is special. They would love to make more of it. So if the opportunity presents itself, fingers crossed. Hopefully it can just continue and continue. I know Greg has said publicly that they've had story ideas going as far as season 5,
Yeah, I think I've heard
and
that.
beyond. And beyond. Um, the joke I always like to make, and I get in trouble because people don't realize I'm joking, so I'm going to say it very clearly. I am joking. Is that if they keep doing more seasons and they keep doing time skips, that by the time we get to season 6, that's Legion of Superheroes.
Yes,
That's not
indeed.
that's not true. That's not true. I've never heard Greg Weisman or anybody else involved with the production of Young Justice say a word about Legion of Superheroes. So that is a joke.
I'm gonna put a
Uh,
graphic up here that says, "Just kidding. Don't worry. Don't write this down. It's not set in stone."
yeah, I see. I need to learn.
Disclaimer.
I can't make jokes because I have just enough connection to the show that people hear something from me and think it must be official, in spite of the fact that I swear the most frequently said phrase by myself at conventions in the last 5-6 years has been some variation of, no, I didn't work on the show, I drew the tie-in comic.
Exactly. Yeah.
I say, and it's not like I'm not damn proud to have worked on the comic. It's just
Right.
people come up and they either think I worked on the show or that the show was based on some
The
version of the
comic.
comic
Yeah.
that I did. And no, I don't. I don't want to have people heaping compliments or praise on me and then find out that they are complimenting me for something I didn't actually do. So I'd rather just get it really clear up front.
That's
It's
hilarious, and
it's all
it is
good.
something that I've seen you said multiple times. So let's actually get into the comic. Released this week is part one and part two of the Young Justice comic, and it's with some of our favorite characters. Spoiler alert for you fans who have not had a chance to read the comics on the DC universe, but now's your chance to pause this video or pause this interview right now. Go check out the comic and then come back and hear directly from Chris on his thoughts on it. Chris, were you happy to hear that you're going to be working this story with two of the Young Justice favorites, Miss Martian and Superboy?
Oh heck yes. Greg and I loved working together on the comic. We like to think we make a good team on comics in general. We enjoyed working on Young Justice together specifically.
Sure.
We had been campaigning for revival of the comic since since before season 3 got greenlit, but especially since season 3 got greenlit. With the much shorter production cycle of a comic, because you can go from a green light to a finished book in about 3-4 months.
Right.
Um, we could have had a book coming out every month during the year leading up to the release of season 3, but they weren't interested in doing that, and that's their call to make. So we kept hoping that, like, well, maybe at some point through this process they'll decide, like, hey, it'd be good to have the comic, let's do that. But nothing had happened yet. And then a few months ago, I got an email from an editor at DC that I hadn't worked with previously, asking if I was available for a secret project. And I said that I was available, and please tell me more. And it turned out that it was doing this one-off story in 2 parts of Young Justice with Greg, and I was sort of I was thrilled, but I was sort of like, I've been telling people as I've taken projects in the last several months that you realize that if the call comes for Young Justice to happen, I'm going to do that. So asking me if I was free before telling me what it was, I'm like, what if I'd said no? Um, but no, so I was thrilled that we were going to get to do more Young Justice, and we would love to have done. Yeah, I've seen people bill this as it bridges the gap between seasons 2 and 3. We
Right.
would have needed a lot more than
Sure.
20 pages to do that. This is a story
Right.
set between seasons 2 and 3.
Right.
It touches on some of the relationship dynamics between where things left off in season 2 and before where you're going to see things pick up in season 3. It's great to get to revisit these characters. I mean, I've drawn them, I've done prints, I've done custom sketches, but it's different getting to tell a story with them.
Yeah.
And so it was really satisfying to get to revisit Superboy and Miss Martian and Batgirl and Beast Boy are all in this. Simon, the great villain Simon, who I
Fantastic.
love as a villain, but I've not had a chance to draw in a story before, so
Sure.
that was fun and exciting. And it was not only it felt like old times getting to draw these characters again,
I bet it
but
did.
I'm working digitally now, and I like to think I'm always refining and honing my processes and skills. So I'm like, aha, let's see what I can do with this now. It was all great. And it flew by so fast. It was amazing that it went from we're doing it to done. So we would love to get to do more, but it's like everything else. If they see the demand for it, hopefully they'll say, well, hey, we should do more of these comic book things. But
Exactly.
not up to us.
No,
So
it
we'll
is
see what.
not. No, it is not. But I know the fans are excited to get their hands on this copy again and see this story. Um, Let me pause for just 10 seconds. I'm going to make sure and plug in my phone real quick. Just 1 second.
Fun things for you to watch when you're editing.
Be a bartender. Look at that.
I know.
All right. Thank you for waiting. Ready to go again?
Oh yeah.
I'll finish up with the storyline, just getting into the brief story.
Yeah,
And then
whatever detail you want to go into. I mean, because as long as we put the spoiler alert out there, by the time
exactly.
this goes out, people should have had a chance to read it. So
I did. Yes, I
especially
did.
part one. Especially part one.
Exactly. For sure. For sure. All right, and Chris, I'm gonna say one of my favorite aspects of this story, of course, is the relationship between Superboy and Megan. We get to see Hello Megan again. That was a
Yeah.
favorite episode amongst fans. Is revisiting sort of that storyline. Now she's trapped in an episode, and it plays out great because this is an episode that's been watched by Gar for one, so he knows exactly how this is supposed to go on. It almost has a little bit of a Back to the Future tale to it. You know how the story is supposed to end, but you're supposed to sort of, in order to survive it, make sure that something, the resolution is occurring the way it needs to happen. There's only one way to solve this problem. And so Guard to me has really grown up a little bit because he's really pushing the resolution to the story. So for me, it's great to see Gar as more of this mature, sort of taking on this leadership role to get all of them out of the situation.
Well, and to me, that's a big part of what makes Young Justice so special. I mean, I was a massive fan of Batman the animated
Right.
series and Superman and Justice League and Batman Beyond, all those shows.
Right.
The thing to me that makes Young Justice different and unique and special is by virtue of the fact that it's a coming of age story that it has these younger characters.
Right.
The room it has to show them growing and developing, because like Justice League is a great series, but those characters, other than a growing bond between them, they're all essentially the same people at the end of the series that they were at the beginning of the
They
series.
are.
And that's not a knock on the show. That's kind of the nature of what that show is.
Exactly.
Young Justice, by the end of season 1, the core team members are not remotely the same people they'd been
No
at
one is
the
the same.
beginning of that series.
Exactly.
And more so by the time you've gotten through season 2, and now season 3 they'll be that much older and more experienced. And again, you have the fun of watching the new characters come in and kind of having the same limitations and learning curve that our original team members had back when we started.
Right. Right.
So yeah, you see a character like Gar or someone like Impulse, not in this comic but in the show. They're still a little bit the goofball that they've always been, but you're seeing that get folded in with the greater experience and maturity as the characters age and learn and all that.
That's wonderful.
Um, and yeah, so that to me, even in something as simple and short as this 20-page comic story, um, it has a little bit of that flavor, and that to me that's really what Young Justice is.
And I love it because you watch season 2 and how it ended, and Superboy and both Miss Martian, their relationship gets rekindled. You think everything is sort of a happy ending there, and you go to this comic which happens, after the finale of season 2, and you realize not everything is complete yet, and
Yeah,
there's still another level to their relationship for them to explore. And so this is getting even deeper to the core of perhaps what the main issue was. And so seeing that being developed even more, and seeing them come out of it makes them even stronger as a couple.
relationships are complicated,
They
and it's not as simple as flipping a switch that's like, oh, we've resolved our issue, we can just be move forward like nothing ever happened. It's like, no.
no,
So you're seeing two people that there's still some friction, and there are still some kind of hot button issues that, like, once something comes up, it it's gonna be in your face now, and you've got to work through it again.
right.
And so you're seeing issues like that get woven into the story. Again, part of the uniqueness of Young Justice, I've never seen another show, especially in the superhero action adventure genre,
Right.
where the events of the kind of villain of the week plot line have such lasting, meaningful impact
Oh my,
on the characters and their relationships.
I
That,
agree.
like, even when you win, that win can come at a cost,
Yes, it can.
and it isn't just like, well, back to business next week. It's like, no. That once something changes, it might get better, but it never completely goes back to what it had been before. Because
That's so
that's
true.
life.
Exactly.
And so yeah, it's exciting to see that with what's happening with McGann and Superboy in the story, with as you were saying, the Gar's growth as a character, um, Batgirl just trying to track what's going on. um, but yeah, it's really exciting. And then you want to talk some deep dive stuff.
Please.
So so depending on how closely you were paying attention and how much you know your DC Comics lore, A lot of fans may or may not have picked up on the fact that in when we saw the Hello Megan show in uh, season 1 of Young Justice,
Right.
one of the other actors who appeared in the show along with the woman that played the Megan character's mother,
Mm-hmm.
uh, sorry, um, McGann's adopted mother who played Megan. Sorry,
Right.
said that wrong. Was Rita Farr. Rita
Okay.
Farr, who was the civilian identity, who was an actress of Elastigirl from the Doom Patrol,
What?
which is
Okay.
how Garfield Logan eventually gets connected to the Doom Patrol.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Now that's out there. If you guys want to read up on this stuff, the Young Justice wiki page has this all broken down, and they do a great job documenting all this stuff.
They
So
are a
that
great job.
was enough of a deep dive. More obscure than that is the actor and the two actors that play Megan's parents on Hello Megan are characters from an old DC Comics miniseries. It was a 12-issue miniseries called Silverblade,
That's
which
right.
was written by Cary Bates along with Greg Weisman
Of course.
about a classic movie era actor who gains the ability to he can basically take on the abilities of any character he's played in a film, and he made a lot of weird kind of genre movies, so you can imagine the places that goes. Well, in this comic story we meet the actress that played Megan's mother, and so you're seeing even more of a reference to this sort of extended web of continuity.
That's fantastic.
Some in Greg Weisman's head and Brandon Vietti contributes to and tolerates. Uh, but I get these scripts and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then of course I want to like fully get on board with it, so I'm like looking up, okay, I want to have imagery on the movie poster for Silverblade that we see that references the original Gene Colan comic book art from the miniseries, and yeah, it we get crazy.
That is so cool. I actually did see a note about that. It was either from the YJ Wiki page or one of the fans that follow the Wiki page that they had brought up the Silverblade reference. So reading up into that was fantastic, and you explaining it even helped even more.
Well, and the great thing about the writing on Young Justice is that you don't need to know any of this stuff. You know, the story tells you what you need to know to enjoy the story.
Yeah.
But if you want to go digging, the level of detail and backstory and connectivity is crazy. I mean, just even on a not so deep level, the fact that if you want to know how the continuity of the comics connects with the TV episodes, all the timestamps thread together.
Sure.
There, I think it's episode 8 of the first season. Somebody asks where Robin is, and Wally volunteers, though he's off doing dynamic duo stuff with Batman. On the same date as the date stamp from that episode shows, in issue 11 of the comic, we see Batman and Robin fighting a bunch of League of Shadows operatives at Cape Canaveral, and
That's
it's
so
like
cool.
same date. That's where Dick Grayson was. Is
Consistency,
he was doing that?
continuity.
Yeah, and it's crazy,
This this
crazy.
this show is taking animation TV to a whole new level. It's like something we've never seen, and I can't imagine there'd be another show that really has an opportunity to get into it. And to all on top of that, with the continuity and the details, these characters are so relatable. They're going
I
through relationships, they're going through dynamics with other characters, they're feeling lost, they're feeling pain, They have emotions that are normal for just average everyday people, and they're superheroes, and they're going through things that are so relatable. And there's just you could spend all day just praising so many of the things this show is able to accomplish. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it myself, and I'm just so delighted to be a part of it. Just in case anyone doesn't think I'm objective in the extent to which I'm a fan of the show. Um, so the way I got the gig drawing the Batman strikes
hmm
is when they first announced that there was going to be a new animated series called The Batman. I thought, well, I know how this works. DC will do a tie-in comic for that show because back in
sure,
that at that point in time they always did one. And I've been doing the occasional story for like Justice League Adventures, but I didn't have a regular monthly
right,
gig at DC. And so I asked, my editor that I had been working with on those, do you know who's going to be editing the tie-in comic for the Batman?
right.
Because I'm sure there will be one, and I want to pitch to get that gig. And I eventually found out who the editor was, and I did some sample pages, and I got the job. So that lasted, it was a 50 issue run, and it was great. But when the show came to an end, the comic came to an end,
Yeah,
and it was a year and a half, couple years later, that I heard that Greg, who I'd met and who I'd worked with on one story previously, was going to be doing this new Young Justice series, and it sounded pretty
yeah,
cool. And I thought it would be so great. I mean, me looking for work, and this sounds like a cool show, and Greg, who I know is involved with it, I would love to get that gig.
sure.
So again, I asked at DC, do you know who's going to be editing that comic? And by the time I found out who the editor was, I was told, oh, we already have a full creative team in place on the book.
Oh wow,
And and I was like, well, oh well, would have been cool, but not the end of the world. And if you recall, they aired the two-part pilot for Young Justice a while before the regular series started. And so that aired, and I'd seen it, and I was like, this is fantastic. Wow, would I have loved to have been involved with this comic? Oh well. And then I randomly get a call from this editor at DC saying, yeah, the artist we had on the book is leaving. Would you be interested in coming on to draw the series?
that's fantastic.
And yeah, I was over the moon thrilled. And, I don't know what the combination of factors were. The fact that I had already tried to get involved with the book or this, but apparently when the first artist left, the editor asked Greg if he had any preferences on who he'd like to work with on it, and he asked for me. So
You're in. There you go.
kismet, meant to be.
Exactly. It's
And
fate.
the rest, as they say, was history. So yeah, it has been a treat to be involved with the whole time, and I'm very proud of the work I've done. But it's just been such a pleasure to be associated with something that is so well done, and so many fans know it and appreciate it.
Exactly. YJ fans, you have your opportunity. If you've not read it yet and you're still listening to the show, we apologize for the spoilers, but go check out this story. It's a great short tale that Chris drew and helped create with Greg. It helps you dive even further into the relationship between Superboy and Miss Martian, who are just fan favorites. They've been fan favorites since the very beginning, since they first met. How they met and their dynamic, their relationship has changed ever since their first meeting to where it is now. So go check it out on the DC Universe app. They're up there now, and be sure to tune in to Young Justice this Friday when the first three episodes are going to premiere. Chris, going to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from all of my fellow Geekcasters who couldn't be here today for joining us today. It's been an absolute delight. Please let us know if you have any other projects going on right now you want to go ahead and drop.
Yeah. Well, the next thing I'm going to be doing is so IDW comics. They are coming out with a series of all ages books featuring Marvel characters. They have a licensing arrangement with Marvel,
Okay.
and I'm going to be doing a 3-issue arc with writer Eric Burnham on their all ages Spider-Man title. So I
Nice.
get to draw some Spider-Man. That'll be fun.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
I've got some other irons in the fire, but they're all kind of in the maybe probably
Sure.
mode, so I can't speak to those right now. As I said, Greg and I would love to do more Young Justice, but that's totally not up to us. That's up to the powers that be. It's between DC Comics and the DC Universe streaming platforms. So the more people that read and reread and reread both this new 2-part comic and all the previous issues of Young Justice, which are available to read with subscription on the DC Universe platform, it makes it likelier that someone would decide that they want to see more. And aside from just more stories getting told overall, we're going to burn through the first half of this season
That's right.
in January, and then we're going to be waiting until June for the second half of the season,
Right.
and then that's it. After all this waiting, we will have gone through an entire 26 episode season of Young Justice, and they could decide tomorrow that they want to make a season 4,
Yeah.
and it would take them 2 years to make again, because that's how long this stuff takes.
Oh my gosh.
So wouldn't it be great to have a comic book coming out that actually fills in gaps between seasons and tells you more about characters and just something
Yes, it would.
coming out new every month of Young Justice? I sure think so.
All the fans
So
agree.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I appreciate that. All the fans would love it, and with the DC Universe app and the show being brought back, it's gonna open it to a whole another generation of fans who probably haven't seen the show when it was first aired and canceled, but now the show's expanded even further to a whole nother level of audience, and so it'd be great to have a comic book out
I
now. I think right now
I
is the
hope
time.
so. And when we were doing the original run of the comic,
Mhm.
DC, because it was based on an animated series, um, they branded it as an all ages title, and the fact that the content of the book, we wanted it just to match the tone of the show, which was not a particularly kid oriented show. I mean, it was all ages friendly, but it was written to a fairly sophisticated level.
Sure.
um, but because the book was branded all ages, both in DC's solicitations and the way it would get displayed at most comic book shops, it wasn't with the other superhero books. It was over with Looney Tunes and Scooby Doo. So if you weren't looking at Looney Tunes and Scooby Doo, you would never even know that this comic existed. So by the time a lot of fans were discovering that there were tie-in comics written by one of the producers of the show and they're in canon with the show,
Yeah.
those the print versions of a lot of the comics, I mean, the trade paperbacks are all out of print. We would love for them to do new printings,
Yeah.
but right now the only way they're available is, aside from like finding a back issue somewhere at your local comic shop, if you get really lucky, is digitally, and they've been available for sale through Comixology and iTunes. But if you're getting the DC Universe subscription anyway, whether it's to watch Young Justice or Titans or any of the other shows that they're doing,
Yeah.
all of this comic content is available there for free if you're a subscriber as well. So yeah, you can catch up on all of it.
Please do, because we would love to have more comic stories out with Young Justice and having Chris be the artist for all those comics. Chris,
Employ me.
please do. Where can fans see you in the near future? What appearances do you have coming up? And where can we find your website?
Well, my website is www.christopherjonesart.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that has links to all of my social media. It has an appearance schedule. Coming up in February, I'm going to be at a Doctor Who convention in Los Angeles called Gallifrey One.
Fantastic.
I will be at C2E2 in Chicago in the spring. The MCBA Comic Con, formerly known as Spring Con, here in Minnesota, where I live. Later in the year in October, I'll be at New York Comic Con, as I always am. Some other ones in between. Check out my appearances page on my website. I've also the most recent article there. By the time people are seeing this, is going to be my big post about the return of Young Justice. I'll have some links there to. I've got some original artwork from pages of the original run of the Young Justice comic, with auctions running on eBay right now, and I've got a number of prints that I have done featuring Young Justice characters. Um, that I have them at conventions, but you can get them from my Etsy store as well if you aren't going to see me at a con. So that's you can find all of that on my website, ChristopherJonesArt.com.
That is fantastic. Chris, appreciate you again for joining us, having this interview, discussing for the first time in a very long time a brand new comic storyline from the Young Justice series. And let us know what you think about the new episodes. You probably might know a little bit more than some people. We won't get that out of you right now. But we are going to be interested to get your own individual take, and we'll talk to you soon again about the new season, some new episodes, and congratulations for just being a proponent for the season to return, for the series to return, for always keeping hope up with the fans. You, along with Greg, Phil, and many other social media groups, have always held the faith and have always done what they can, from petitions to picketing. Yes, I did see a picketing group one
Picketing?
time.
Oh, I never even heard about that one.
Oh, that was early on at the Warner Brothers
Ugh.
Studios lot. I wish I could have been there, but there's been a lot of things that have occurred over the last few years. So, Chris, Young Justice is back. We have another comic storyline that we have you and Greg to thank, and it's a wonderful time to be a YJ fan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. I love all the fans, and I will be watching Young Justice Outsiders with everybody else, and I can't wait.
Young Justice fans and any other fans watching right now, be sure to check out Chris's website. Please go check out the comic on the DC Universe app, and be sure to follow us at Countdown City Geekcast, our Facebook page, as well as our Twitter page at CCG_podcast for future interviews and more coverage from Young Justice Season 3.
The heroes you demanded
That's the commitment we were looking for.
are finally back.
I never wear a super suit.
Sorry, pal. This counts.
Young Justice Outsiders on DC Universe.
Now you just have to hit me.
New faces, new episodes, new adventures. Get superwhelmed.
Got you covered.
Young Justice Outsiders premiering January 4th only on DC Universe. Join now.
All right, and that was the promo for Season 3 of Young Justice. And joining me right now is the one and only AJ Nightwing. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Young Justice starts this Friday. How excited are you to see Young Justice again?
I mean, after what they left off on Season 2 with Wally disappearing and Nightwing, going away, and then we see that clip of Darkseid, I'm pretty excited.
That's good.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character, or do I need to not guess and just say it's Kid Flash?
It's actually, in Young Justice.
In
It's
Young
actu-
Justice.
In Young Justice, it's in my name, guys, AJ Nightwing.
So Nightwing is your favorite.
Nightwing is my favorite in Young Justice, but my all-time favorite superhero is Flash.
Okay.
'cause, yeah.
So we did see a short clip from season 3, and it looks like the light is taking children from Earth and experimenting on them.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on them doing experiments on the children?
I mean, it kind of like helps me refer, if any of y'all watch Black Lightning, which I do, the same type of thing is happening in that TV show where there's this drug called green light and kids take it and they get superpowers.
Wow.
And then, scientists kidnap those kids and the parents just completely just abandon their kids and let their kids die during the experiments, or just let the kids, become slaves. And that's kind of what's happening here. And we could see in the trailer Nightwing and who else was there? I can't really remember, but Nightwing and someone else were freeing those kids. It might have been Superboy. I don't know. We'll have to watch it again.
What has been your favorite moment or your favorite episode so far of Young Justice?
It's hard. I mean, there's a lot of good episodes.
There is a lot of good episodes.
I gotta say, my all-time favorite episode was season 2, season finale.
Yeah? Okay.
I like how they brought Darkseid and Vandal Savage together. There's nothing good that can come from them too. I like how they did that. And then also, it left us with a good cliffhanger of how Wally disappeared. Now,
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Wally's disappearance?
Yes.
Is he going to make a comeback?
so I'm assuming he will make a comeback because in that moment he's getting struck by blue lightning and he disappears from the tornado that they're running around. And in the TV show Flash, again, if any of y'all watch this, Wally in Flash, he disappeared into the Speed Force. He got pulled by these blue lightning bolts that wrapped around his ankles and arms and pulled him into the Speed Force. Into the Speed Force prison, that's what they call it in the show. And I'm assuming, hopefully, that's what happened to Wally with the tornado. Because of the energy, I'm assuming it needed a host for the power. They even said that in the TV show. It needed a host for the power to slow it down, and that host was sadly Wally. Just like when Savitar got freed in Flash, the host for the Speed Force was Wally. So I'm assuming that's what's happening here too. The host is Wally, hopefully. And then, if not, then maybe he doesn't come back. Maybe he just actually died and that's, just end of Wally. But I'm assuming they'll bring him back. Or, some time travel stuff will happen and Wally doesn't die or something. I'm assuming he'll come back, though.
I hope he does, too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, AJ Nightwing, for joining us on the Countdown
Yep.
City Geekcast. You're going to be with us Friday for the watch party.
Yes, I am going to be there.
Season 3 of Young Justice,
Yeah.
Outsiders, is coming.
First 3 episodes, be there. I'll be there. You'll be there.
I'll be there.
JC will be there. We'll be there. So, yeah, we'll see you there.
Thank you for joining, sir. And what do you have to say to all the other Young Justice fans out there?
I guess just if you've been waiting for a long time for this show and you're in the area or you're in San Antonio, the heck, come down with your other Young Justice fans. Me, him, he's been waiting for this show a long time, probably longer than I even can remember stuff. I think he's been waiting since the new season, since I was 4 and I'm 11 now. So, So, if you liked Injustice and you just gave up hope, it's back. So do not give up hope. I recommend keep on watching it. The trailer looks amazing. I'm glad that they brought Nightwing's suit back, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We saw him in that weird, suit with the mask on his...
It's probably a stealth suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they brought his suit back, Nightwing. And then Robin, he got a new suit. He looks like Damian kind of with the hoodie.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, AJ Nightwing, thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait till Friday.
Yep. See you there.
Take it easy, guys.